And we are back. Thank you for staying with us. In case you're just joining us right now, you are on time for the first conversation of the day, which matters because it concerns you. We are talking about unlocking youth potential through relevant and inclusive education. And for this topic, of course, we have an expert. We have been joined by Grace Wangoi Kinyanjui, who is a seasoned educator and the director of Open Distance and E-Learning, that is ODEL Center and Virtual Campus at St. Paul's University in Limuru. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Stephanie.
We're glad to have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so let's start by you telling us more about what you do at the ODEL Center.
Great. So at the ODEL Center, which is also known as the Virtual Campus at St. Paul's University, we are all about providing education online. We use technologies available to bridge the gap for students who are not able to come on campus. So they are able to study wherever they are, anytime, anywhere, at their own convenience, and the education model offers flexibility. And that means that anyone who is at a far-flung area or is unable to access our campuses physically or is out of the country can actually study from wherever they are, and the quality of education is the same as that of a student who is on campus, and they're able to graduate within the time that is dedicated. We also support blended learning on campus for students who are there. We help them get a feel of what technology can do on matters teaching and learning, just to help them again to just align with the needs of the present times. Digital literacy is a key skill, and we do that for all the schools at the St. Paul's University.
Okay, that's quite something and very impressive. What I'm just curious, what inspired you journey into education and particularly into the virtual learning space?
To be honest, I think it was never premeditated. Just like every young person, at some point I also went through a crisis in finding a career path. And even how I got to study education to begin with was by fluke. It was, I would say, by accident. It was never anything to do with passion or something I really wanted to pursue. But somehow one thing led to the other, and then as time goes, because you're not young forever, you rediscover yourself, and then you start to realize these are things you're starting to love doing, and you do them very seamlessly without injecting too much effort, and somehow you grow through the journey. And when I started out as an educator, very young, over the years, I have been able to build the relevant skills, experience, and expertise and knowledge, and it gets easier as you go through. But for my experience to do with online education, that one I would say is passion-driven. Now that one was something that I identified, and I just found my footing, and from there was no turning back.
Awesome. That's good to hear, especially today is usually career talk, and some people usually find themselves at a place where they're not sure, you're at crossroads, am I really meant to do this? But there's room for rediscovering yourself, and it works. Okay.
I think we all set out to become the big things: pilots, engineers, doctors. Did you want to become this?
Lawyer, no. For some reason, I wanted to be a lawyer.
Yeah, absolutely. But as time goes, you find yourself somewhere, and somehow you start to rediscover yourself within that space. And who knows, maybe that's what you were created for.
Yeah, you find it's actually something that you love and you're passionate about. Interesting. Now, looking at our education, how is it that would say we can unlock the youth's potential, particularly through the relevant and inclusive education is our topic?
Education plays a critical role in unlocking the potential of the youth. And why I would say that is because if you look at the youth statistics generally, globally we are looking at about 1.2 billion people who form the youth populace. And that's at about 16% of the global population. In Africa, we do have about 60% of the population being under 25 years old. In Kenya, we are looking at 18 plus million of young people, and it's expected to grow to about 22 million in the next 5 years. I know on surface value and on the streets we keep saying that people are going to school and they're not getting jobs. Isn't that the narrative? Everybody says,
oh, kenda kusoma saisi, there are no jobs.
There are no jobs. Or the old people have refused to get off the seats, you know, and those kind of things. But then education is a key driver in unlocking the potential of the youth. Going by those numbers, you can see, if each of those people represented there would say they're not going to get an education because there's no white-collar job, then I think there's so much at stake here. Education, I know it sounds like cliche, is the key to the future. Opportunities, I say, come to those who are prepared. If there was a job opening and you haven't prepared yourself adequately and they have all these things they are looking for and you don't have them, definitely, you will not get them. You will not get the opportunity that is there. When you look at what is happening globally, there is a shift towards certain aspects. And the reason why education seems to be myopic as far as unlocking the potential of the youth is concerned is because probably we haven't sat to interrogate some of these things. There is a yearly report called the Future of Jobs Report. The 2025 edition actually highlights some of the critical skills that are required in modern times. And there is a preference towards certain skills. Right now, the trending thing is definitely AI and things to do with automation. We're looking at robotics. We are looking at information processing, big data, and machine learning. Anything to do with ICT, we know, in the next 5 years is guaranteed to give you, absolutely. So then it's a question of aligning to those. We also know that things to do with routine jobs, clerical jobs, such as secretarial jobs and these kind of things will be replaced by technologies and automation as we know it. We are also looking at other frontline jobs like I think in the next 5 years, as per research, things to do with the care economy, these things to do with hospitality, caring for the aged, and this kind of thing will also have a lot of opportunities, things to do with vocational skills. This TVET agenda, the technical and vocational skills, things to do with construction, plumbing, sales, also skills that are touching on people, soft skills. Areas that will have tremendous opportunities. So it's until we align properly that we will be ready for those opportunities. But if we go pursuing areas that are not well aligned, then definitely we will come out and there is nothing for us within this environment for us to fit in.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that you have mentioned some very key points that some of the jobs will be replaced, and people have had this fear, especially when it comes to AI technology. They say it's coming to take over our jobs, but you've also mentioned areas that it's actually that will create jobs in the future. So you've said some of the repetitive tasks that are there, like the secretarial jobs, those are the ones that are going to be replaced, right? And then opportunities are in the ICT space, most especially. I'm still trying to understand, why do you feel, or why is it said that there'll be opportunities in the caregiving space, taking care of the aged around those areas?
That's actually a global phenomenon. And I don't think we are very far-fetched from that reality. From the global statistic I provided of just 16% of the global populace being that constituted of the youth, that tells you there's a whole 84% of that population that is aging. And it also goes to say that the youth doesn't remain young forever. If you're 24 years old today, in another 10 years, come what may, you'll be 34. In another 20, you will be 44. And the truth of the matter is that because of the many things that are happening in our environment, including our lifestyle, there are a lot of diseases. There are a lot of cardiometabolic diseases, diseases that are propagated or triggered by the lifestyle that we are embracing. And so with an aging population, and then with a population that is also getting unwell more than ever, then you find that the need, you know, we keep laughing when we see in the Western world people being taken to the homes of the aged and that kind of thing. It is here to catch up very well with us here, but it's not something that we can totally alienate from this particular space, particularly with the demographics we are seeing. A Gen Z, in another many years, might not have the same ideologies we are holding. I'm personally a millennial, having been brought up by Generation X. There are certain values on family that I hold that somebody Generation Alpha, Beta might not have. You'll get old, they will not feel obligated to take care of you. And
you will have to go to a care home and seek the services.
But even then, if you look at the labor we are exporting to a great extent, most of the people are actually going to take up those jobs in those lands where that that phenomenon is more pronounced as opposed to our country. But moving forward, then we will see a lot of that. Look at this 18 million, 22 million in 5 years to come, that youth population. As they continue to age, it also tells you they'll be the bulk of the aging population.
So sometime later on, Generation Beta or Alpha will have opportunities in that area for the Gen Z.
And we don't know how many, you know, for Gen Zs, you don't know if they want to have families, whether they want to have 1 kid or 2 kids or 7 kids. Those are things we are yet to see. Yeah,
that's true. Okay, what about the soft skills? Why is this area? Why are these skills needed in this generation, in these changing times?
We're in the 21st century. Even at the university, we are preparing a learner for the 21st century, equipped to the 21st century skills. A major component of that has to do with soft skills. I sat through, as you're looking through as you're sharing the research on the gadgets, and there was an interesting population that the youth in that country, was it Canada or UK?
The one the soccer shared?
Yes.
I can't really remember.
Yes, but it was very interesting that the youth actually saying that, well, we prefer some time off gadgets. Yeah, we've got it to a point where, especially on matters technology, the people are getting more tech savvy. There's a lot of technical skills being shared, but people are losing on the human component of things. Such that you'll have people who are very well trained in the technical aspects, but they cannot relate well with people. And therefore, the need for the soft skills. Soft skills touch on leadership, they touch on communication, they touch on collaboration, creative thinking, critical thinking, but most importantly, the need to be adaptive. The agility and the resilience is one of the most sought after soft skill, because, you know, like they say, we are in a VUCA environment. The environment is volatile, it is uncertain, it is complex and ambiguous. For you to survive within it, it's no longer stable. Today you wake up, you have a job. Tomorrow you wake up, you don't have a job. And you can see all these issues of mental health around them and everything else triggering people to move towards certain ways, and some are not very desirable. Soft skills are very critical, because with soft skills, you can relate at a human level. It is when you know that when you have an issue, you shouldn't bottle up, you need to talk to people. It's also when you know that when you're the leader, that people are also going through things, and so you can get to them and listen to them and empathize and move together with them. I mean, people are going through so much.
Yeah.
And that's when you're called to be a good human being. And if you're to be a good human being, obviously we require a bit of soft skills. But most importantly, emotional intelligence. You know, the ability to relate well with others, exercise your mental facets, but also balance it with your emotional facet, and be very deliberate in how you relate with other people.
And for all this that you have mentioned, do schools, universities also preparing the learners of the same for some of the courses that are not relevant anymore or would not be marketable anymore in this day and time? Do universities tell this new entrants, you should probably go with this, or we are doing away with this course? You know, how are universities preparing for preparing our learners for the job market?
Universities have a long way to go. They're required to continue to evolve with the changing times.
True.
Courses that are no longer relevant are something universities are continuously considering for elimination or for revamping, so to make them more appealing, because they are always reviewing their curricula. And in doing so, they have to take care of the market trends and the emerging trends and consolidate that within the reviews. They also talk to the industry leaders. But most importantly, remember, in our country, we are now moving towards the curriculum-based education. It has already started with the competency-based curriculum. So we are moving towards competency-based education. And so it's a whole system. And in doing so, the whole plan is to get learners who are all round and equipped with the technical skills and the soft skills, because in the current model of education, the one that is elapsing, 844, there were gaps that had been identified, that people were being trained, there were no jobs for them, or where they were absorbed, the employer was also complaining that they are not ready.
Yeah, you know, that they don't have the skills, they just have the papers.
Yes, yes. And, you know, there's something beautiful about having something technical and just moving away from the paper, the certificate, the paper mentality. I'm just here to get my paper and go.
Yeah.
And then what? When that white-collar job is no longer there, what do you do with yourself? And I think that's the major challenge even for the youth. You go to the university, education is not meant to give you a job. It's not meant to make you employable. Education is meant to open up your mind so that you're able to identify opportunities, analyze risks, and fit yourself somewhere. If you come out, what you trained for is not there, pick whatever is there and run with it. You never know where that will bring you to. I'm sure you've seen cases of graduates who are doing my Boiro and Smocha.
They did engineering. You're like, how did that come to be?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's also because of the appreciation that when everything else doesn't work with what I have, what am I able to do? And I think that is the challenge for the youth, because sitting back and saying there are no jobs may not be the solution. We are also empowered after going through a degree program to also create opportunities for others. You can also become an employer. You don't have to be the one being sought after. You can also create opportunities for other people.
All right. So you see an era where we are moving from the mentality of I need a job to let me create a job, let me create opportunities. And just looking into now the CBE, what we have now, the curriculum-based competency-based education. I've seen, you know, in one of the, we have the three, right? The three areas: STEM, social sciences, and arts and sports. So under STEM, there's pure sciences, there's applied sciences, and then there's, I think, pre-technical or something. So for that particular track, they said that they will not only give a certificate once they're done with grade 12, but they're given two certificates, because they have the skills, they've earned the skills, the technical skills that are needed for them to go and work, whether they want to, they have the option to go and work or continue with their education. So how important is this, and why particularly for that particular track?
I think for that particular track is also because we've not been a very science-oriented environment. It's not been very much of our culture. I think since I was in school, there was always a conversation around STEM, particularly for girls, that it's time to move with STEM and that kind of thing. But it's also because out of the realization of the evolving nature of knowledge. Science to a great extent, seems to harbor solutions to most of the problems we're experiencing. Look at China, for example. Most of the population is coming from that background. And when you look at their ability to generate solutions for their own problems is a lot higher. And therefore, the need to align with the needs that dictate the day. So for us, somebody, for example, goes through training for many years, and instead of ending up in a lab somewhere to do production for medical interventions, they are just a salesperson in a pharmacy. I don't think that's what they were trained for.
No.
Yes. Look at COVID-19 vaccines, for example. We were dependent on them to bring them to us, make research, do everything, bring them to us. And then for us, with the limited knowledge, it was just, I think we were going for the vaccine based on what sounded fancy.
Yeah.
Moderna.
AstraZeneca.
and the other one, you know, I think depending on how it sounded is what drove you to the one that you needed, not because you really had a good understanding of that. You even see memes on social media while our children are doing CBC and they're cleaning the market. Children in China are building robots. Hence the need for us to, you know, from a very early age to start inculcate this value that we can actually become experts, scientists and researchers and, you know, build even a research culture. It's something we are even struggling with at the university. The output of research publications from Kenya, from Africa is wanting. You know, we need to do more compared to the rest of the world. But when you look back, it's everything to do with how we begin from the very basic level as we go up.
As we go up, because it's usually assumed that sometimes the people from the West tell us about our problems. Well, we ourselves live in our country. We should know our problems. We should know what kind of solutions we have. But it's also encouraging to see how many people in the universities have come up with different innovations, how Kenya is now becoming a hub for innovation and technology, which is profound. Now let me come back to what you're doing with virtual learning. You know, how is that working? Is it for all careers? Because some careers seem to be more practical than others. So how do you make that work?
For virtual learning, majorly, we've hosted courses that are theoretical in nature because of just what you're raising, that some courses are more practical and therefore require more practical experience, hands-on experience and physical presence. So, for example, our courses under the School of Health Sciences are predominantly in person because they have to be in for clinical practice, for simulations and that kind of thing. But with the emerging technologies, and the fact that we also need to move to be at par with our peers, then there is room actually to train health workers online, but with minimal interventions for physical presence. But for the rest of the areas, for the rest of the schools, education and social sciences, leadership and business studies, communication and communication and computer studies, and School of Theology. Those ones we are able to teach fully online. A student locates us on the website. They are able to go in, check out the course they require, sign up for it. All their materials are accessible online, go through online assessments, and at the end of the day take their online exam. So they can go through their study period without ever coming on campus. Except when they need to come and graduate.
I think that is very, very good, especially for those that are working and are out of the country or out of town most of the time. So is this for all entries, like for those that are doing certificate, degree, master's, PhD, all that?
It's for all levels.
All levels.
All levels.
Amazing.
Yes.
What is the role of technology then when we're looking at relevant and inclusive education to unlock the youth's potential?
Technology is the driver. It is the enabler. It is the engine.
That drives all this.
It is everything. I was ready to get all the synonyms I can.
Yeah.
In an era such as this, technology is basically at the core of everything you do. Because for us, we use it for teaching and learning. For somebody else, they'll use it for virtual engagements in a corporate setting.
True.
For others, they will use it to sell. For others, they will use it to market. For others, they will use it for medical procedures. Technology is just at the center of it.
Yeah.
And for technology in particular, it's been observed with the many shifts in technology.
Yeah.
Everything changes every day. It is estimated that in the next 5 years, 39% of the technological skills as we know them today will have been deeply transformed or will have become obsolete, which is quite scary. Imagine with the much you know, and then in 5 years someone is looking at you and they're thinking, oh, you can't even do the mundane activities using this tech.
Yeah.
So in 39% of those skills will have suffered that. And then that calls for continuous upskilling, retooling, so that you stay at par.
So you need to always be up to date.
Always.
Just make sure that technology does not overtake you.
If it overtakes you,
you're in trouble.
I wonder how Gen Alpha and Beta will look at us when it overtakes us. Right now, when they look at us, they're thinking, okay, you guys can only do this.
That.
Now imagine then, and what will have happened in that technological field. So you cannot rule out the retooling, reskilling, and upskilling.
Upskilling every time.
Every time. When you hear something is happening, oh, AI, CG, what app?
Get to
you
know
run.
about it.
Get to see what it does.
Yeah. Okay, I love it. But now, what are some of the challenges that it presents? Because I'm assuming with the kind of virtual learning space, for one, there's the trouble of looking at technology. There's ChatGPT, there's DeepSeek, there's all that. There's a lot and that is directly affecting, the output from learners. So what are you doing about it? How are you making sure that as much as you're uptaking technology, but you're also countering the challenges?
That has been a major challenge. ChatGPT. Oh my gosh, that one especially. When people hear technology in the university, everybody thinks ChatGPT. They forget all the other technologies because this is the one that makes everything easy for a student. They'll just go, you give an assignment, they go online, and within 3 seconds, they upload
have all the answers.
Your work. It's a major, major challenge. The era of AI has flipped things at the university. It is not business as usual. And worse still is when an educator has little understanding of this kind of technologies, because these learners are way ahead. They know which ones can be used to summarize a research paper, which ones can do a research paper, a whole thesis even, which one can do a term paper, and that kind of thing. So, well, the truth of the matter is these technologies are here and they're here to stay.
Sure.
What we will need to do is also evolve as they evolve. We will need to look at our pedagogy and adjust accordingly. But as it stands right now, universities have started to formulate AI policies to just dictate how these technologies can be utilized, for what and to what extent. But majorly, the issue is that there's an ethical use of AI. What we require is ethical use, so that when you use it, you actually say, I am using it and this is how I used it. Let's treat it like any other technology that has been there, like Gmail or Google Chrome even. I mean, it's just a technology, but because of the stigma around it, the fear, the feel that, okay, with this thing, people will not come out like we used to come out. That, I think, will flip everything. It's just to embrace and to define the limits through which it can be used. It's still a very growing area. Even at the national level, we've done very little. But institutions are starting to recenter and just look at it and see how it can be addressed. Of course, use it ethically and with caution. And I think that will be useful for everybody. It's a good technology. It creates efficiency. Why would you be on something forever when it can actually
help you very fast? It's like, you know, and you've put it out very well. It's the ethical use of this technology, because you can use ChatGPT to just direct you to the site so you can get the information instead of getting the summary of everything without you doing the research. So it just makes it easier for you. It depends on the use. And is there any particular innovation in EdTech that has excited you when you're looking at the future of education in Africa and Kenya?
The open AIs.
The open AI.
Those ones are exciting, and it's also because since it's growing and it's a growing and developing area. Every day there is something new.
Yeah, true.
You use ChatGPT. There's a tool to check if you've used ChatGPT, and then there's also another tool to humanize that, and then. You know, and it just keeps evolving. For me, that is what really excites me, because I also see the skepticism, the resistance around it. And I'm thinking, what if we used it in a much better way to create more efficiency for everybody? This is not when you would be spending months just trying to fish out information, traveling to different libraries, when you could just sit in your office, and within a couple of hours you have actually managed. It's meant to create efficiency. So let's see how we can improve its efficiency, but let's do that within the confines of being ethical.
Ethics. Okay, that's fair enough. And you are involved in developing the National Youth Leadership Curriculum, right?
Yes.
I wanted to know, what were the guiding principles behind it?
Oh, this curriculum was for leadership, for youth leaders who are majorly in the political field, without disclosing many details. But it was out of the needs assessment that had been conducted, and it had been established that even though the youth are willing to offer themselves for leadership positions, they are not considered. So they will show up, they have what it takes, but because of the politics around certain issues, they will never get through it. And you know, these things are very, there's everything going on. So it was to build their intrinsic capabilities, the soft skills particularly, so that they are able to take a seat at the table, speak, and speak with confidence, and just be able to negotiate. And there was also an element of benchmarking with peer youth leaders, so that they can also cross-learn from each other as they equip themselves for leadership. Of course, this whole issue of youth leadership is a thorn in the flesh, we all know. But if the youth are supported, I think they have what it takes to actually take up leadership roles and do it very well. Unfortunately, allow me to just say this, the flip side is, whereas there are many efforts to empower them to get there, the youth are also their own undoing. Because like this morning when I was coming here, I passed through somewhere that I will not mention, and you can just see people who are leaving that office in the morning. They've been doing, is it called a luta, the entire night. Today is Monday. Today is Monday. They're going straight to sleep with all the energy that they have, and with all the youthfulness, with all the creativity, with everything within them. A group of around 5 people, I saw them get into an Uber. So they were leaving whatever place it was. And I'm thinking, these are 5 opportunities gone today. Nothing much is going to happen today. And like they keep telling us, you can't be a minister of enjoyment from Monday to the other Monday.
Monday to Monday. You just choose a day.
You can't live like that. You need to take some time off to detox and declutter your brain and your heart and your body, so that you can engage in more meaningful activities. If these other people are to have faith with the youth, then there's a way the youth also needs to demonstrate and earn that trust.
Position themselves well.
if the parents who were fueling at that station were all looking at these young people, if they showed up for an interview that day, you'd be very skeptical. Pretty much like the conversation you are having. You will look at the ages and you're thinking, hey, am I really sure?
Let me probably
you don't want to plant those kind of seeds. So I think the youth also need to hold themselves to account, prepare for that opportunity, but also demonstrate and earn the trust that is required from your peers and also from your elders and from the society, so that you can make do a good future. Be happy with the future self and create a future self.
For you. And is our education system, and I know we've talked about CBE creating this, is our current education system, the one that, the outgoing system, 844, is it creating youth leaders? Is it intentionally nurturing youth leaders? If not, then is CBE doing that?
844, I would say yes. Because the leadership we are having today and experiencing today is actually a product of 844. I am a product of 844.
Okay.
You are? Are you a product of 844?
Yes, I am.
Absolutely.
844.
So yes, we would say it created good leaders. Yes. What has happened in between? You know, what has happened in between? Those are other things altogether. But yes, 844 has created good leaders. CBE, I think, will even ground them further in terms of values, just exposing them to the right values, and the fact that it's holistic development. We are just hoping that as they come, we will be able to see the kind of people they're bound to become. But I would say I'm not likely to punch 844 when I'm actually a product
of 844,
and I've seen other leaders, very good leaders, come from the same system. What is not working as far as leadership is concerned, we can only blame it to other factors, but not necessarily on the system of education.
Okay, fair enough. And are there any particular, or do you have policy changes that you would recommend that the government takes up in trying to make education more inclusive and future ready for the Kenyan youth?
Policy changes, absolutely. Policies are the oil that helps things move. Without policy, you are basically grounded. In line with the evolving needs in terms of skills and experience, we'll call for policy changes. Of course, we have a lot of policies in this country. We also have a lot of policies in our institutions. But every time you have a policy that has been overtaken by time and is no longer serving its function or purpose, you will not be able to move further. So in light of the provision of education and even providing opportunities for our youth in this country, policy changes that support youth involvement and youth access to the growth of things around their survival is very critical. When you look at the future trends as far as jobs are concerned and the education that we are offering, we are looking at very concentrated areas that are very well articulated. We are looking at the digital economy, so all policies should point towards that direction. I know the government has a JIRA, the digital thing that's going on, but we need to do more. We also need to focus on the green economy, anything around conservatory efforts, climate change, and those kind of things. Again, because in the future, those are the emerging needs. We're also looking at agriculture and agribusiness. By the way, the youth, at least the ones I've dealt with, barely want to hear anything agriculture.
It's not the coolest thing.
It's dirty. That one is dirty. It's been considered dirty work. Other generations have gotten into it, but the younger generation basically doesn't want to hear anything about it. Yet it's a very dignified sector, and it has the money. And we are looking at a time where in our country, a lot of agricultural areas are being converted into real estate. What does that tell you about the future in terms of our capacity to feed ourselves and our food production capability? What does that say about our volumes? How are we going to feed ourselves then? So agriculture and agribusiness is a great area that policies would help to even motivate the youth to venture into. So that the stigma around it being associated with old people and having to live in the village to do it is somewhat lifted. We're also looking at the cultural and creative industries. You know, these days everybody wants to be a content creator.
With TikTok.
There must be a lot of money. You know, content creation and all these things around that, again, policies that support people who are talented along that line would be a major boost for young people, because definitely it would help them meet their ends, as well as issues around entrepreneurship and SMEs. Entrepreneurship is one of those that most young people want to disappear to when they do not want to do formal employment or when they cannot find formal employment. But are the policies available enough to motivate our youth or even to push them towards that direction? Taxes, how supportive is this whole arrangement for a young person to want to go towards it? So we really need to think about policies targeting that particular area, those particular areas, so that the youth are supported, facilitated, and motivated
to take
up those ones. And most importantly, because the way I see it, those are the areas where we can easily decentralize the skills. So that not everybody comes to the towns. You know, when I was in school, we were being taught about the rural-urban migration. You don't have to be in the cities, Eldoret, Mombasa, to succeed. You can also take your skills where they do not exist. And that way, you will be able to secure yourself. Because if you come to the city, the demand and supply curve, you know, if you're too many, the supply is too high, the demand becomes too low for all of you. So you decentralize your skills and go to where they might be required.
Okay, that's profound. Before we come to a close on this conversation, I'd also just want you to speak on an area where some people do not know where to turn to, some in careers, the young people who are in careers, or leave that one alone first. The young people have just graduated from school. Let's say they've gotten a degree. Some proceed immediately to do a master's program. Is this advisable, even for those that have done diplomas, going directly to do degree programs? How would you advise as someone, as an educator, someone who knows the system, know how things work?
I think there's no straight answer
to that.
to that one. It's interesting that you're actually asking, because I also get that question a lot. How advisable is it for you to transition from one level to the other, and so on and so forth? And I wouldn't say this is a yes or no, situation. Depending on what you want to pursue. Take, for example, if you want to become a lecturer like myself. I don't think you'll have an option than to move from one level to the other and do it very fast. By the way, get your PhD, become a doctor, start to publish, become a professor. There you may not have much options. But in some areas, you may actually need to take a pause and go out and get some experience before you come back. Because the truth is, you are also putting an investment towards this education. And is there a cost, is there a return on investment? It's a question you will want to ask yourself. Because the other danger of not taking that pause is when now you come back and start to say, tayo masomo yezi saidia, you don't have to. And then you'll start quoting Mr. Beast, who just became a billionaire at 23, and start saying, you don't even have to go to school. Even Mike Zuckerberg never went to school. And, you'll start to justify all these things. So I think this applies to the individual. Just gauge, see what works for you. If you have the time and the resources, sometimes if you finish, the better. But sometimes you might end up with all this education with no experience, and you get to a place where you're not required to showcase what you can do with this knowledge. But because you have a gap in the experience, then it becomes a challenge. And I think that's why for curricula at the university, there's always a place for attachment. You just have to go. So that you
get in touch with the industry. How are things?
Yes.
Do I still want to do this?
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, for example, ironically for me, I went for teaching practice. And I sort of told myself, no, not education. Not me, not again. The one people say, Nijikute. But somehow, as fate would have it, you just find yourself in another place, and you continue building your experience, and you start to love it. And the more confident you feel about it, the more your productivity and performance levels become. And the more motivated you get to want to grow. So that confusion is very, very normal. I think we've all gone through it. Everyone has gone through it.
It's just a phase in your life.
But maybe I would just say for that particular one, mentorship plays a critical role. Get someone to talk to, walk with, ask them, how is the journey ahead? What do I need to prepare? And these kind of things. Mentorship works wonders. I think we are all products of being handheld by someone who showed us the way, who helped us think soberly about our lives. And surely, even though at first everything was very unsure, with time you get clarity because you also mature, and you know, life catches up with you.
Okay. Finally, the importance of upskilling. You know, you mentioned it earlier when we were starting, but for a youth who's 20 years old, probably in rural Kenya, what would you tell them as a key driver to unlocking their potential right now?
Upskilling is the way to go. Like I said, you don't want Jen better one time to look back at you and they're thinking,
you don't know this.
Ancestor, you know. Upskilling is critical. Everybody requires to do it. Lifelong learning is not an option. Knowledge is not static, it keeps changing. So you have to keep going back to learn what is new. That theory that you are taught may have evolved by now, or that model. So upskilling is critical, and there are many opportunities for doing so, especially for the rural youth that you've just talked about. With some bundles on a mobile phone, they can actually sign up for a course. You know, we are in an era of MOOCs, the multiple open online courses. Go in Coursera or any other, get LinkedIn. A free course. Yeah, exactly. Just learn something, and if you have some money, pay up for that course, get a certificate. It builds a portfolio for you. When that opportunity comes, you will be very ready for it. So enroll for these things. If you are running a small biashara and you don't have time to come on campus, we have the virtual campus at SPU. Come study the comfort of your home or at the comfort of your business, just so that you don't lose touch with what is happening. Otherwise, when you do, skills do not remain the same over time. They become obsolete, and that is where frustration kicks in. But this requires a growth mindset and an open mindset. For some people, they'll get that paper, like they love to call it, and just run. But to remain relevant, then upskilling, retooling, reskilling is something that cannot be compromised. Every year, we expect to see something about your own growth. What have you pursued to improve your skills? So, Stephanie, what have you done? Yeah. We are half the year. What have you done to improve your skills?
Good questions to ask yourself. Okay. Yeah. I also feel challenged with that. Thank you very much, Grace. And we want to close it, but first, please let the people know where they can contact you in case they have any questions or if they want to enroll, something like that. This is your camera, in case you have anything that you want to add.
All right. Thank you very much. So to reach me, on LinkedIn, and I'm also on Facebook. I have an email address and also my phone number. And my handles are Grace Kinyanjui on LinkedIn and Gracie, GRACYKUI on Facebook. And my phone number
If you're comfortable.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Great. So yeah, that's how you'd reach me. I will be happy to get in touch
All
with
right.
anyone.
Thank you very much, Grace, for coming on board and sharing these amazing insights around unlocking our potential as young people, particularly through education, inclusive and relevant education. So it has shed a lot of light to the opportunities that are there and what we need to do, particularly upskilling. So thank you very much. That has been Grace Kinyanjui. She is the director of Odell Center and Virtual Campus at St. Paul's University. You can reach her through her platforms that she has just mentioned for now. We're going to take a short break, and then Brand Circle will be coming up with yet another interesting conversation. Stay with us.